There's a difference between being physical and being dirty. That to me was a dirty play. That wasn't a physical play. It was a dirty play. You grabbed her around her neck and you took her down. And people will say, well, that's why they brought Sophie. They brought Sophie to be the enforcer. Well, what was she enforcing in that moment?
Sheryl Swoopes is at it again. And by at it again, I mean she's running her mouth. This time she's coming after Sophie Cunningham. We all know Sophie Cunningham sent a pretty loud message. By the way, a message that wouldn't have been needed had the WNBA referees done their job during that Connecticut Sun-Indiana Fever game, instead of just being like, nah, nothing to see here. We'll just let everybody that assaulted Caitlin Clark just stay in this game.
So let me get this straight. Sophie Cunningham finally does what Fever fans have been begging for. She steps up and protects Caitlin Clark, and now she's the problem? Nah, we're not buying that. You mean to tell me after weeks of Caitlin getting knocked to the floor, elbowed in the ribs, poked in the eye, and cheap shot at mid-drive, someone finally pushes back and now everybody's mad? Where was this energy when Kennedy Carter sent Clark flying? Where was the outrage when Marina Mabrey hip-checked her like it was a WWE move? But the moment Sophie shoves JC Sheldon after Caitlin gets poked in the face, we're screaming dirty player? It's wild, right? And just like that, Sheryl Swoopes hops on her podcast, fires off hot takes, and labels Sophie as reckless and dangerous. But here's the thing, where was all that concern when Caitlin was getting hit night after night? That silence, that double standard, yeah, we're gonna talk about it. And trust me, it gets worse.
What are you doing? And so when I say there's a difference between being physical and being dirty, that to me was a dirty play. That wasn't a physical play, it was a dirty play.
Imagine being Caitlin in that moment. You just came back from injury, you're trying to win games, you're the most talked about rookie in sports, and yet nobody's protecting you, not the refs, not the league. But then, out of nowhere, Sophie Cunningham steps up, she's had enough, and late in the game she checks Sheldon hard. Shoulder grab, swing around, message sent. Was it aggressive? Yeah, but dirty? Come on now, that wasn't a flagrant 2, that was a veteran drawing the line, because if the refs won't protect Clark, someone has to. So why is Sophie getting roasted for doing what the officials failed to do all season? It's not just about that one play, it's about everything leading up to it. So ask yourself, if Sophie hadn't stepped in, who would've? Now let's talk about Sheryl Swoopes. Look, we respect the resume. WNBA champion, Olympic gold medalist, Hall of Famer, she's a legend, no doubt. But lately, she's been more focused on throwing shade than actually protecting the game. On her show, she said Sophie's play was dirty, that she didn't go for the ball and she was grabbing around the net. Really, did we watch the same game? Because from where we're sitting, it looked like Sophie went up her body and let her presence be known. Not malicious, just physical. And the irony, Sheryl was silent when Caitlin got tackled by Kennedy Carter. She said nothing when Angel Reese flexed after hard fouls. She didn't even flinch when Clark got shoulder checked off a screen by Marina Mabrey. But now that someone finally stands up for Caitlin, it's suddenly a problem? Weird, right? Almost like it's not about the foul, it's about who Sophie was protecting. And in Sheryl's case, that truth might hit a little too close to home.
I'll say this. There is a difference in being a physical player or a physical play and a dirty player or a dirty play. There's a difference.
Every superstar needs an enforcer. MJ had Oakley, Kobe had Ron Artest, LeBron had Tristan and Kendrick Perkins, even Steph had Draymond. It's just how the game works. When you're the face of a franchise, when the defense keeps targeting you, somebody has to step up and say, you're not touching our star without consequences. And until now, Caitlin Clark didn't have that. Game after game, she's been hit hard with barely any reaction from teammates, nothing from the refs, just get up and keep playing. But Sophie saw the eye jab. She saw the laugh afterward. And she said enough. Her move wasn't about hurting Sheldon. It was about sending a message that you don't get to bully Caitlin Clark anymore. That next time you take a cheap shot, someone's gonna respond. And you know what? That changes the whole dynamic. Now, players have to think twice before taking that swing because Sophie's watching. And honestly, it's about time. Let's be real. This isn't just about basketball. It's about identity, about favoritism, about who the league and its former stars want to succeed. Because here's what we've seen. When Angel Reese throws bows and taunts opponents, people say she's passionate. When Kennedy Carter cheap shots Caitlin, some say it's just hard-nosed defense. But when Sophie Cunningham does the same thing, suddenly it's a moral crisis. Why? Because she was protecting Caitlin Clark, the same Caitlin who's white, from Iowa, popular as hell, and happens to be dominating the conversation. The same Caitlin some players resent because she's bringing in the spotlight they never got. And whether people want to admit it or not, there's some jealousy there, some ego, some real tension. So when Sophie defends her, she becomes the target. It's not right, it's not fair, but it's real. And the WNBA better address it before it loses control of its own narrative.
Last play where Sophie, she didn't go for the ball at all. At all. I think it was 30-something seconds left in the game. You're up by 17 points. Like, what are you doing? And so when I say there's a difference between being physical and being dirty, that to me was a dirty play. That wasn't a physical play. It was a dirty play. You grabbed her around her neck and you took her down. And people will say, well, you know, that's why they brought Sophie. They brought Sophie to be the enforcer. Well, what was she enforcing in that moment? I don't know. I get it. You're upset because people are saying JC intentionally poked Caitlin in the eye on the foul. I didn't think JC intentionally did that. She was swiping for the ball. She hit her in the eye. They called the foul.
Let's talk about the petition. Yeah, you heard right. Someone actually started a petition to ban Sophie Cunningham from the WNBA. How many people signed it? About 300. That's it. That's how you know the outrage was fake. If people really thought Sophie was dangerous, that number would be in the thousands. The media would be non-stop. The league would be forced to act. But instead, crickets. Because deep down, fans know the truth. Sophie did what needed to be done. She stood up for her teammate. And that play, it gave the Fever something they've been missing all season: attitude. That's why fans weren't mad, they were hype. The same fans who were begging for someone to protect Clark, they finally got their wish. So let's be honest, the real reason this blew up, because the old guard like Sheryl Swoopes didn't like seeing their era challenged by the new one. And it's showing.
Let's zoom out. Sophie's foul wasn't just about JC Sheldon. It was about all the games leading up to that moment. The cheap shots, the no calls, the constant targeting of Caitlin Clark. And it was about frustration. Because when your best player keeps getting hit and nobody's doing anything, you start to feel it. The whole team feels it. Sophie just did what most of us were screaming at the TV for someone to do. She drew the line, and it wasn't subtle, it was loud, it was physical, and it was clear. You touch our star again, you're gonna feel it. That's leadership, that's fire. That's what competitors do. And whether you like it or not, that moment changed things. Now the league knows it's not just Caitlin out there alone anymore. She's got backup, and sometimes that's all a star needs. Here's the part nobody wants to admit. Fans loved what Sophie did. Go check social media, read the comments, look at the views. People weren't calling her dirty, they were calling her necessary. Because let's face it, drama sells, rivalries sell. And players who aren't afraid to mix it up, they bring the edge fans crave. This is what made the NBA great. Bird versus Magic, MJ versus the Pistons, LeBron versus the Warriors. It wasn't just talent, it was tension. And now, the WNBA finally has some of that. But instead of embracing it, some of the league's voices are trying to shut it down. That's a mistake. Because if the WNBA really wants to grow, if it wants fans to stay engaged, then it needs moments like this. Moments where the emotions spill over, where teams stand up for each other, where the drama is real, not scripted. So instead of slamming Sophie, maybe the league should be thanking her. Now here's the part nobody's talking about. Is Caitlin Clark still hurt? She just came back from a quad injury. Then Marina Mabrey body checked her midair. Since then, Clark hasn't looked quite the same. She's not as explosive, her shot volume is down, and her movement looks a little hesitant. Could she be playing through pain? Absolutely. So imagine this. You're battling injury, getting physically targeted every night, and still carrying the offense, and nobody is stepping in to help. That's why Sophie's play hit harder than just a foul. It wasn't just physical, it was emotional. It told Caitlin, you're not alone anymore. And for someone who's been taking the hits for weeks, that moment probably meant the world. If Caitlin's not 100%, she needs protection now more than ever. And finally, someone gave it to her. At the end of the day, this ain't about being dirty. This is about drawing the line. The Indiana Fever have been passive all season, watching Caitlin Clark get targeted, taking hits without fighting back. But Sophie Cunningham flipped that script. She said enough. She stood up, she sent a message, and in doing so, she gave the Fever something they've been missing: identity. And yet, Sheryl Swoopes and others want to make her the villain? Let's be real. If that shove had come from anyone else, someone not defending Clark, this wouldn't even be a story. But because it was for Caitlin, the haters came out. It's tired. It's predictable, and it's why the league needs to wake up. Because right now, Sophie Cunningham's the only one who's doing what the WNBA keeps saying it wants: protecting its stars, growing the game, raising the stakes. So don't hate her for it, thank her. If you think Sophie did the right thing, drop a comment below. And if you're tired of the WNBA double standards, hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe for more unfiltered hoops talk. I'll see you in the next one.